yeah, I mean, you really have to put it, especially like the first, few years. And, once, you get good at it, you don't want to not work, because you want to make money.
Right, because it's exciting.
Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I pick up a live transfer on a Saturday,
Right.
and make $1,000?
Fired up.
Welcome, Senior Life family, to another All Fired Up podcast. I'm your host, Will Voorhees, and today I have a virtual guest, Dana, with us. Dana, for anybody that doesn't know you yet, kind of explain what your background is and how you got into the business.
Hi. So, yep, my name is Dana. My background before I got into life insurance was retail. So, I worked in retail management pretty much my whole life since I was 18. I kind of just got stuck in that field,
Right.
and, felt it was kind of, I was at a standstill, wasn't going anywhere. And, that's kind of what led me here.
Okay, cool. And so, was Senior Life your first insurance company, or is this
Yes.
okay,
Yeah. It was,
cool.
yeah, first company.
And so, did anybody reach out, or how did you find the company?
So I was working at my last retail job, and I had just had my daughter. I think
Okay.
she was like 2 at the time, and I just got to a point where I knew that I needed to make more money. I knew I didn't want to go back to college, and that was like my alternative. Either I stay in retail for the rest of
Right.
my life, make no money, or I guess go back to school. And then eventually I had just moved to Florida to be closer to my family, and I had saw Dave and Doug, post some things about life insurance on social
Okay.
media. And I saw that they were both living in South Florida. And so out of kind of desperation, I just, I reached out to Dave because I grew up with them. I knew them both from New Jersey, and I reached out to him and I just literally just said, "What are you doing? Can I do it?" and and the story is kind of funny because like I was that desperate to stop working at the mall, stop working in retail. Like everything he told me to do, I just did it. He said, "All right, you got to get your license.
Okay.
Start the course." And I just followed everything he said,
Okay.
and
And
that's
so
how.
you said the mall. I'm just curious, what store in the mall were you working at?
I worked for Johnson and Murphy. It's a men's shoe store,
Okay. Cool.
which I love.
All right.
Great company. I loved working there, but having a young child and wanting to, I needed to support her on my own. I knew, I wasn't gonna be able to do that working
Right.
in that field.
And so me and Doug were kind of talking before this, and he said you actually started out in field sales. I know you do primarily telesales now, so if you don't mind, just kind of running us through what your field sales experience was like.
Right. So it was bad. I mean, like it started off okay, and um so the first time I went out with Dave for training, and I remember this day like clear as day. We went out, he knocked on like 5 doors that day, and he sold every single person. And I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
wow, like this is so easy. I can do this." And
Right.
and then eventually went out on my own, and of course it wasn't that easy, and I'm like naturally a very shy, reserved person. I mean, the first door that I knocked on, I was like, scared that they were going to open the door.
Right.
Like it was just terrifying. Eventually I got over that fear, and I guess I got better, but I never got good in the field. And a
Okay.
year went by, I still wasn't where I wanted to be. My family, every day I came home crying. My mom was like, Dana, maybe this isn't for you. And my whole family was like just waiting for me to quit. And for some reason, I just, because I trusted Dave and I trusted Doug, and they just kept telling me to, keep going and trying to motivate me. And for some reason, I just hung on for a year.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
And then so what was the next step? Because I know you've done a really well in the telesales space. So
Right.
what did that transition look like? I mean, how was that brought about? Kind of tell me a
Right.
little bit about that.
So after a year, when I still wasn't making it, I remember I called up Dave and I said, like, listen, Dave, like, I was at the end of my rope, and I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm gonna have to quit. And for some reason,
Okay.
he would just wouldn't let me quit. And he said, well, you don't have another job lined up yet, right? And I was like, no. He's like, well, why don't you give the phone a try? And I thought to myself, well, if I can't sell in the field, how am I going to sell on the phone?
Okay.
But he was right. I didn't have anything lined up, so I agreed, and he told me to go to Doug's office, every day. And I did. I started doing that, and it was still, again, like, terrifying because I was in this little office. Like, Doug always kind of like intimidated me just a little bit. 'Cause I don't know. And back then it was just me and him, and it was like a small office, and it was Doug, and I was on the other side, and I was like scared to pick up the phone because he was going to criticize me. um, but I just pushed through it, and I started, picking up live transfers, and eventually I just like figured it out, and it did seem easier for me on the phone than it was in
Okay.
the field. Yeah.
Awesome. And so speaking of live transfers, Doug was also mentioning to me that you're not the one to shy away on the weekends. That you'd pick up live transfers on Saturdays and Sundays. I guess kind of just tell me like what's the work ethic look like to be able to be successful in this business?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, we promote, work for yourself, make your own schedule, but, at the end of the day, like, you have to put in work.
Right.
So yeah, of course. I mean, I'm always working, every Saturday. I used to work all the time on Sundays too, but now I try to just like dedicate one day of, not working. But yeah, I mean, you really have to put in, especially like the first, few years. And, once, you get good at it, you don't want to not work, because you want to make money.
Right, because it's exciting.
Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I pick up a live transfer on a Saturday,
Right.
and make $1,000? It doesn't make sense
uh,
not to.
right. It's not
Yeah.
a bad gig.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess would you like to tell us a little bit about like if you've got any good tips for someone just starting in telesales, that might be a little bit scared of the phone or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, what I tell my new agents is, especially people that are scared to spend money on leads and scared of, picking up live transfers. Like, a lot of new agents, in my opinion, they pick up, let's say 5 live transfers and they close none, and they're, heartbroken. Like, oh my God, I just spent,
Right.
over $200. But like, at the end of the day, what you just have to realize, it's like, it's a numbers game. Like, it's, number one, you're going to close someone eventually.
Right.
And like, you have to, like, everyone's bad in the beginning. Like, you can't be expected to just, pick up the phone and close someone. So you just kind of have to have like faith that, if you keep going and keep doing, like, the next right thing, it's going to work out.
Right.
Like, there's no
And
other way around it.
yeah, I've kind of experienced that, and because we do employee sales over the phone here, and I was really scared to get on the phone with people, and now that we've kind of gotten into the groove, and like I've been doing it for a while now, like it's not as hard as some people make it out, or I guess think it is.
Right.
But and then so I heard you mentioned your agents. Kind of tell me about the team you've built and what it's like to watch that grow.
Yeah, I mean, so now I have a decent sized team. It's definitely a challenge. I've noticed, my production, of course you have to sacrifice something. So, my production goes down a little as I get more agents. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool to watch, especially when you have a new agent like sell their first policy
Yeah,
and they
that's
get
a
so
big moment.
excited. Yeah. So, I
Right.
mean, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see all that.
Awesome. Well, is there anybody you kind of want to give a special thanks to? Anybody you want to shout out? Anything like that?
I mean, Dave and Doug, you know,
Okay.
they're, like I said, that I grew up with them, and, you know, they've both been huge support to me. And, you know, if it weren't for them, I definitely wouldn't still be here. You know, I always
Right.
say to Dave, like, if I had an agent, even Doug, if I had an agent like me for an entire year, I definitely would have given up on them. You know, I would have been like, this girl's not doing anything. I can't deal with her anymore. So yeah, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be here without them. So
Yeah, that's awesome that you've got the support in place
yeah,
too. You know,
yeah.
that's huge. And then how could people find you from this podcast? If anybody, you know, wants to reach out, maybe interested in selling with you on the phone or just figuring out how you do what you do, you know, how can people get in contact with you?
You mean on social media or phone number, or email?
Whatever you're
Yeah,
comfortable
I mean,
with.
I'm on social media. You know, my name, Dana Berlin, Facebook, Instagram.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, Dana, thank you so much for joining us today. And for everybody at home, just please like, subscribe, and comment, and tune in next Friday for another All Fired Up.
Thank you.
Fire. Fire.